Strong and uninformed opinions, everybody. Trying to get a little bit better about doing these more consistently. So, some people complained about me holding the mic. Not going to do that anymore. I'm going to put it right there. All right, let's start things off on a somber note. R.I.P. Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy Osbourne died today. I can't remember. I think he was 79 years old, something like that. He had a good run, let's be honest. If I'm being honest, probably thought he would have died a lot earlier, but he is an icon in just American music and metal. My one little beef is I don't know if anyone else saw clips or anything from his final show. I thought that bordered on elder abuse. Um, I mean, the dude was clearly dying, and you wheeled him out on stage just to make those last couple millions, and that's pretty fucked up. But that's beside the point. R.I.P. Ozzy. So next thing, this Epstein list stuff. I This is the first time you're going to hear me criticize Trump pretty heavily. Because again, this has to do with policy and optics and all those things. I think Trump is afraid that he is not implicated in any of the sex trafficking stuff because I think if you look at things, it's pretty clear that he was not. But what I do think is that Jeffrey Epstein was involved in money laundering, and I do think that Trump was possibly involved in that. One of the things that everyone always talks about is the 34 felony convictions of Trump. Most people have no idea what he was even convicted of. Let me just inform you, he was convicted of 34 counts of the exact same transaction because he was making payments through somebody else to make hush money payments to a porn star. But he did it in 34 increments, just like basically doing payments like on a car. So because he did it 34 times, he got 34 felonies. I may be wrong on this, but I am fairly certain that nobody in New York's history has ever been convicted of a similar crime. Not at least for a felony. Misdemeanor, yes, but not a felony. Because the truth is that what it basically boils down to is a mild prostitution charge. And I'm not even sure you could get away with that, seeing as how she was a porn star. She gets paid to have sex on film. I mean, this is all just kind of semantics to make sure that he got felonies and they could do the perp walk. That's regardless. I think that the Jeffrey Epstein thing is Trump is somehow implicated in a money laundering scheme, hiding money, whatever. And if they find that, you're going to get more of these where even if it maybe isn't a full-on felony, they're going to push it as a felony. They're going to get him impeached, all those things. And I'm not to say that he's not wrong, but there is a gigantic world of difference between somebody being a fucking pedophile, human trafficker, all those things, and somebody hiding money. Just saying. Any of you who haven't lied on their taxes before, be the first to throw a stone. But I don't. I think there's nothing somewhat more American than people somewhat hiding money. Um, I mean, this is a different situation for anybody who is, and even that, even if you have a normal ass job, there was probably something in your past that you were supposed to pay taxes on, and you just didn't. Just gonna say it. Some sort of gambling, anything. So now it's a different scale. Don't get me wrong, and it is a crime, but I'm not sure it's anywhere near as big of a fucking deal as the other shit that Epstein is accused of and the things that people are accusing Trump of. So I think that's why you see the big reversal is that somewhere in the going through the files, and I do think if these files come out, you're going to see other people who are implicated in the serious shit, and that's going to be a big scandal. and that's where the leverage would come in. It's going to be basically, well, like if you out our guy, we're going to out you for doing these crimes. And okay, but I mean, as far as I'm concerned, fucking kids and human trafficking and all those things, the true sense of the word human trafficking, way bigger of a fucking deal than, cooking the books a little bit. But that's just me. I know some other people are going to disagree with that. What else? What else? What else? So tariff revenue. We are projected, even with the decrease if deals come in, to annually make around $300 billion a year in tariffs. Fantastic. You put that with the cost savings in the big, beautiful bill, and we actually might be heading towards some sort of fixing our national deficit, which is out of control. This is another thing. That shit pisses me off beyond belief. There have been people screaming about the national debt for years, and nobody gave a shit. I literally, for years, have heard people say, is that even real? Who cares about the national debt? Well, now you literally, for the last couple of years, are seeing why you should care about the national debt. Our ability to borrow money from the world is not infinite. Just like everything else in the world, if you spend too much money and you can't pay for it, and then the credit card company comes calling one day and you're all like, well, I can't make that payment. Dude, you lose all your credit. Kind of the trajectory the U.S. is on, and it's a little bit different, but in layman's terms, same shit. If we act like we don't give a fuck about how much money we spend, and then it's going to be very obvious that we can't pay it back, people are not going to invest in us. And I don't know if people even know how that shit works. So, like, money creation is created through treasury notes. Okay? And in past, foreign countries were the largest investors of our treasury notes so that we could create money. Well, that has decreased by, I think it's like 20%. It used to be something like 52% of our debt was owned by foreign countries. That's also not a good thing. China owning all of our debt, not a good thing. I think it's down to 32%. But here's where the problem is. Who bought that debt if it wasn't other countries? Well, the simple answer is us. If you have a 401k, if you have a fucking pension, if you have a retirement fund, more than likely you are invested in U.S. treasuries. Now, let's use your grandma as the example, because everyone loves their grandma. Well, at least I hope you do. Your grandma is living off of her pension, her investments, whatever. Not everyone was lucky enough to even have those things. But she is living off of money that she gets from someone putting money into something else. Her, your grandpa, whoever, a business, it doesn't matter. Say she worked for the same company for 40 years and now she has a pension. Well, that pension is invested in treasuries. Okay, so here's what happens. Who cares about the national debt? Here's what happens if we default on our obligations. Your grandma can no longer afford to live however she's living. The $1,000 she makes off of her pension, $2,000 she makes off of her pension will tank because all the treasuries are fucking worthless that are in that fund that is funding her retirement. Now, what are you supposed to fucking do with grandma? Okay? And that's a trickle down. That happens to everyone down the line. Everyone who is invested in pensions, 401ks, all that shit, your shit will tank. And politicians have been spending your money like it's going out of style and then making you buy it back even though they have no intention of ever paying it back. I don't know if I'm making this clear what's going on here, but you want to talk about a Ponzi scheme, it's a huge Ponzi scheme. They are creating money to do whatever the fuck they want and then taxing you, and then you are buying this debt that they don't intend to pay back. And then in the process, you're going to be flat broke when you go to retire if something doesn't change. Looks like it might be changing. Hopefully. Now, tariff revenue was through the roof this month. And if there are deals, now you have to remember right now, tariff revenue is through the roof. And those are the deals that are at the 10% baseline, except for China. China's higher. 10% baseline. Well, some of the deals that are coming in, like Vietnam, the tariff actually increased. They are being charged 20% on tariffs. So now that amount might even go up. And some countries are going to go, like China. I don't know what the number is. I mean, again, this is just somebody who mildly pays attention, giving you his opinion. That number, if I had to guess, if they come to a deal that everyone likes, is going to be somewhere around 25 to 40%. I know that's a big range, but I would think that will be the tariff rate on China. Because if you look at transshipping, which is also part of why he's doing tariffs on everybody, is because China has gotten around tariffs before by sending their shit to a country that has no tariffs with us, and then they send it from there into the United States, avoiding the tariffs altogether. Well, now what they're doing is something called transshipment tariffs. So if China sends their shit I'll use it as the example because this is a deal that is actually done. If China sends their shit into Vietnam and then Vietnam turns around and sends it to the United States, that is tariffed at 40% right now. They're trying to do this with everyone. So China does not have a way of cheating around tariffs, which they have been doing for the since Trump was last in office. They've been cheating the tariffs, and we've still been collecting tariffs. Another thing a lot of people don't know. Trump put tariffs on China in his first thing. They made so much money doing it that they never took them off because they realized what a good thing the tariffs were. But China figured out a way around it. So even the numbers that they were making on those tariffs were not the true numbers. They were just like bits and pieces of it. So anyway, we're closing in on the deadline. August 1st is the deadline for tariffs. They have announced that any country that is in negotiations that are in good faith, they may extend. And everyone just keeps saying that it's such a bad thing that Trump he keeps extending. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. That's what's called negotiation. At one point, though, there will be a line in the sand, kind of like other situations, where you may think that, he's just going to extend it again. And then, boom, that date hits and there is no extension. Here we are, tariffs. Now you have to panic to actually make a deal. So I'm not saying that him pushing out the tariff deadlines is a bad thing at all. I think that in negotiations of any sort, being flexible is actually a plus, not a minus. So August 1st, we'll see what happens. They say there's plenty of countries that are at least at the table. I don't know if they're ready to sign shit, but they're at the table. All right, so what else? Talked about the Epstein thing, got some tariffs going on. Oh, Israel. Let me preface this. I understand why Israel bombed the Gaza Strip. I no longer support Israel in this endeavor. I think Israel has the right to exist. I think the Palestinian state has a right to exist. If you watched my last episode with Chris, we talked about it. I think you're going to have to go outside the box to actually ever make that happen. I think the two-state solution has been dead for a while. It doesn't mean that it can't happen. I just don't think it can happen in the form that people want it to or the way that it used to be. But back to my point, Israel's off the rails. I see absolutely zero reason you are still bombing Gaza. It's mine. I don't get it at all. Now, granted, Hamas should have surrendered months and months and months and months ago, but they didn't. But let's be real. There's no infrastructure. There's nothing in Gaza. Um, I'll just say it. If your military is so badass, then why the fuck can't you just go in there and put this thing to bed? Go find the fucking 15 Hamas members who are left. Let's be honest, all the fucking rest of the hostages are probably dead. If they're not, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's fucking war. But the idea that you are still bombing Gaza is absolutely disgusting. I have defended you against the claims of genocide, and the truth is, now it feels a little bit like a genocide. All that being said, I am 100% on Israel's side that they deserve to exist, and the fact that they are literally just ganged up upon from everyone. But the way you're going about this shit, horrible. You need to stop immediately. Can't say it any more clearly. All right, and then there is Russia and the Ukraine. Well, as we said on the last podcast, it is clear that Trump has had it with Putin. He just made a deal to sell U.S. arms, which, from a financial standpoint, this was very smart on his part. He is making the UN buy U.S. arms to give to Ukraine instead of us just giving them to them. Okay, that part I'm cool with. However, all of the not UN, I'm sorry, the NATO, he's making NATO buy them. But all the NATO states have already committed more money to the actual NATO fund, which means they're going to be able to buy a lot of weapons. And they're going to give them all to Ukraine, and this war will never end. It's going to keep going and going and going until you take Putin, who we can all agree is not super stable, and back him into a corner, and he's going to use a tactical nuke. The tactical nuke is going to trigger an entirely different situation where now another nuclear weapon has been used for the first time since World War II. That literally is like all cards are off the table. That could trigger wars all over the world. Not even fucking around. And this is a tactical nuke. This would be what's called a battlefield nuke. It's not going to destroy a city, but it will take out like the entire army in an area. If there's a city there, it'll take out part of the city. They're not these, city destroying, the ones that we all grew up fearing, hydrogen bombs. They are what's called tactical nukes. It's going to kill 60, 70, 100,000 people, but but who cares? That's no big deal. Yeah, okay. But that is that's just to put it this way. Have you ever heard of the doomsday clock? Well, so during the Cuban Missile Crisis, I think we got to 2 minutes to midnight. And what it is, the doomsday clock is a scale, and midnight is nuclear war. Okay, I think the furthest away it ever was like in 91, 92. And I believe it was when Russia collapsed, which is ironic. I don't want to get into that. But when Russia collapsed, I think we were 17 minutes to midnight. Russian Missile Crisis, where, we literally were staring each other down with nukes about to launch them at each other, we were 2 minutes to midnight. We, right now, are 89 seconds to midnight. This is the closest to midnight on the nuclear doomsday clock we have ever been. And I know what I can already hear it. Yeah, because of Trump, dude, fuck you. Do not make this political. We have gotten here through years and years and years of horrible decision making by our leaders and inserting ourselves into bullshit that we shouldn't be involved in. And even the stuff that we should be involved in, we're pussyfooting around and not being decisive, or even backing the right side. So we're 89 seconds to nuclear war. That makes me feel good. I like that. So that makes me wonder deep down inside if some of these other things like ice, which is all of these things are big issues, but we're all looking at that and not looking at this. And let's be honest, this ain't going to end the world. This might. So let's keep the eye on the ball of like what is actually fucked up in the world. Is ICE doing the same thing that has been doing since Obama, just doing it at a greater rate and with cameras on them? More important than the fact that we are possibly starting a nuclear confrontation with Russia. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going with the Russian thing. I think it's a much bigger deal. So I don't know. That is it's concerning. I didn't realize that we were that close on the nuclear doomsday clock. Go look it up if you're interested. Um, but I don't want to leave you on such a grim note. I also saw the new Superman movie. I thought it was great. I thought it was actually pretty good. The whole thing about it being woke and all that stuff. I mean, I thought that was bullshit. Um, there were certain things about it I didn't love. I thought it was just like every movie now. That was a little bit too long. I thought there were some fight scenes that were a little bit too drawn out. Um, I've heard complaints that it's way too dark of a. It's like it's a good mixture of like the hokey Superman and like a dark version of a Superman thing. So I kind of did like that. I thought the extremes of it were a little bit too much. It should have been a little bit more in the middle. Like when it was super hokey, it was super hokey, and then when it was dark, it was kind of dark. Um, but I liked it, and I think people comparing it to other things that's a useless thing because I grew up with the Christopher Reeves Supermans. I liked them, but I can't say I was a huge fan. I've also just never really been a huge fan of Superman in general. I always thought he was kind of a lame ass character. I was more of a Batman type of man, a Batman type of man. Uh, but it was okay. It was good. I really, not to ruin anything, but there was a Superman had a dog, and I really liked the dog. um, but again, there was fight scenes that just were a little bit too long. But it was good. I thought it was a nice reboot, and the whole bullshit blown out of proportion about it's a fucking immigrant story and this, that, and the other. Well, that was always somewhat of a part of the Superman lore. Anyone who read comic books knew that. I mean, Superman is an alien. He's not from this planet. And there was always storylines about people treating him differently and the idea that, is he here to do us harm or is he here for good? And that was part of Superman comic books. So to say that it was like a woke movie is really you're reaching. I think you were just trying to ruin the movie, and you did a horrible job. By the way, it's like one of the biggest movies of the year, I think. Um, Another thing, so I have again don't want to leave on such a grim note as the Doomsday Clock. I have what's called the AMC A-list pass. Some people may have this. Actually it's fantastic. It's like $25 a month, and you get to see 3 movies a week. It's 3 or 4 movies a week, and it's free. It's the 25. It's basically like having Netflix, but you get to go to the movie theater and see 12 movies or 16. I don't remember the amount movies a month. It's fucking great. I go and I see movies that I would never have seen because I'm not paying because movies are expensive. But $25 a month, you go and all you have to do is buy some popcorn and a drink, which you get huge discounts on because you're an A-list member. It doesn't seem so bad. So anyway, I see a lot of movies that I just normally would not see in the theater. And yesterday, I went and did something that they've been doing, which is called Unseen Screen. They tell you the rating of the movie and what type of movie it is, but they don't tell you what you're going to see. You just know that it's a movie that's not out yet. Now, if you do research, you can totally buy, because they tell you how long the movie is. I mean, if you really want to ruin the surprise for yourself, you can go and match movies that are coming out with the playtime and figure out what movie it is. But I didn't do that, and it was actually pretty rad. The theater was sold out. Um, so it was cool being in a theater full of people. Although I will say this, I only go to the theaters now with the reclining. If I have to sit in a normal chair with somebody right next to me, I'm leaving. Straight up. I will only see a movie if I'm in a reclining chair and there's a good amount of space in between me and the asshole next to me. I'm just not doing it anymore. Um, but I went and did it, and it was a lot of fun, actually. And so what was weird about it is I was a good 10 minutes into this movie before I even knew what I was watching. And I was mildly more invested in the movie because I had no frame of reference. I couldn't judge it. I had no idea what the fuck I was watching. So, like, those first 10 minutes were me just in the fucking dark watching a movie. And I really enjoyed it. The movie I saw was uh, The Home with Pete Davidson. It's like a horror movie about a fucking nursing home that he has to work at because of community service. Um, can't say I'm the biggest Pete Davidson fan, but it was a decent movie. I mean, it wasn't like awesome or anything, but it was fun for an hour and a half, or hour and 40 minutes. It was an hour and 40 minutes, but it was fun for just an hour and 40 minutes. A weird fucking movie. I'm not even sure I liked it, truthfully. I mean, I think about halfway through it, I was like, this movie's stupid. And then I kept watching, and then by the end, I was like, oh, that was all right. So I really don't know how I felt about the movie. My point is this unseen screen thing, pretty cool. I think people should go and check it out. AMC does it. I think they do it like once a month, where you have no idea what the movie is. You just kind of know what direction it is. You know, like you don't want to bring your kids to an R-rated horror film. So they tell you if it's R-rated, PG. And they do. They do PG movies. I think the one next month is actually for August is a PG movie. So I might not go see that one. But I really dug it. I also will say movies I'm starting to notice, thank God. I think Hollywood is listening. I'm seeing more and more movies that are coming out that are like an hour and a half. Thank you so much. Not everything needs to be an epic. So I'm really stoked on this new Naked Gun movie with Liam Neeson, and it's made by Seth MacFarlane, the guy who does Family Guy. And I was like, that was the one thing I was worried about. I was all like, they're going to make a 2-hour movie out of something that is stupid and should maybe be like an hour and 30 minutes. And guess what? It is. It's an hour and 30 minutes. Couldn't be happier about that. That is going to make this movie so much better. I promise you. One of the biggest problems with the new Beetlejuice is that movie was way too long, way too much, way too many plots, there must have been way too many writers on it. If that movie would have just been Beetlejuice's old girlfriend looking for Beetlejuice, it would have been perfect. Instead, you had A plot, B plot, C plot. Like, dude, who the fuck needed all that crap? Anyway, that's it. Sorry about the grim episode, but you know, you gotta call out things sometimes, and I think the world is in trouble, people. I think the economy, if we can get out of all the other bullshit, I think the economy is going to do well. Trump's been in charge for 6 months, and goddamn, it does not feel like 6 months. It feels like he's been in charge forever. But love him or hate him, he is doing things which thank fucking God, because I don't know about you, but we just went through 4 years with Biden where I had no idea what they did. You would get a press release that meant nothing. You would hear nothing from the president. You would just have his fucking press secretary yelling at people, telling them that they're stupid. Biden's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Everything was not fucking fine. And just real quick before I go, Stephen Colbert, fuck you. You want to know why you were fired? Because you lose money and you have horrible ratings. That's why you were fired. Who the fuck even watches late shows anymore? Nobody. So to say that this is like a takeover of the media and you have an inflated sense of ego, my friend. You are meaningless. Nobody is listening. Nobody cares. You can't sell ad space. That's why they aren't even just firing you. They're getting rid of the show altogether. So shut the fuck up. You did it to yourself. And I have no sympathy whatsoever. I'm glad your show's going off the air. Go start a fucking podcast like everybody else. Then we can see who actually thinks you're funny. Because I'm pretty sure it's nobody. Anyway, although he was funny on The Daily Show. Wasn't he on The Daily Show back in the day? I think so. He was funny then. His late night stuff? Crap. Total garbage. And it's not political. It's just not funny. It's just not funny. All right, strong and uninformed opinions. I'm going to try to keep up on this shit. Lots of people say they love it. So as long as you keep saying you love it, I'm going to keep making the fucking shit. I don't know, guys. We're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens. Strong and uninformed opinions. Like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends. Tell all your friends. I need more views. Have a good one.